Are you saying that you're not giving enough
Respectful to my ability.
respect to what you want to need,
Yes.
as opposed to what other people want you to do?
Yeah.
So the first thing that I would say is that I think you're operating under the assumption that you can't be true to yourself and be true to your family and community at the same time. And what I'm saying is, you're not being true to them because you're resenting what they're trying to get you to do. And at the same point, you're resenting yourself for not doing what you know you should be doing and not saying what you should be saying. So the question is what's the solution to that? And what the solution to that is a higher, more expanded state of consciousness than where you're at, so that you can find a holistic answer. And what I mean by a holistic answer is an answer that is good for you, good for your community, and good for your family as well. So this isn't what you're looking for. What you were originally looking for is the way for you to be congruent and true to yourself, and not suffer from the disapproval of your family and your community for being true to yourself. And what I'm saying is, your concept of what it is to be true to yourself has to change. It has to expand. You have to give yourself the possibility of finding a noble way to be here. Noble being, a grand way, and not financially, but in your presence, being a wonderful person. If you were being true to yourself completely, you would be perceived as a wonderful person by your community and your family who taught you another way. And yet see that you have found yourself in walking your own path and going in your own way, and doing it in such a way that you're not invalidating their path and their way. You're able to be congruent and true to yourself, and know what to say, and know how to be, and know how to act to the other people who have previously wanted you to do things that made you feel put upon or made you incongruent within yourself, because they were asking you to be something that you knew is not true for you or not relevant for you. So, as always, it comes back down to, are we willing to change ourselves? And by that, I don't mean you adopting a new philosophy or a new mantra or a new anything. Because it's all those positively intended actions and intentions that have led you to where you are. And so you don't go looking for a new mantra or a new religion or a new philosophy or new you, even. What you do is you settle down into saying, how can I be congruent within my experience of myself? Now, you don't know the answer to that, but you have to ask the question, then be willing to sit right in the middle of exactly who you are in that moment, so that the question can be answered. If you're running away from yourself so much that you can't experience exactly who and what you are, then you've got to take the time to give yourself some peace and quiet, where you can just simply close your eyes and relax and ask yourself, what is it like to be me? How does it feel to be me? And is it possible for it to get better? And as always, the first step before it can get better is you have to accurately analyze what it exactly is now to be you. And you're dissatisfied with you, so there's a lot of negativity to feel, a lot of disappointment, traumas, losses, and a lot of false truths, things that you've held on to be true, that you hope they are, you have faith they are, but you don't know. And they're probably not true. Let's say they're not true enough to be the truth that sets you free, and that's really what you're looking for. Where is, in fact, the truth that would set you free from the person that you are right now, from the person that I am right now? It's not easy to be us, especially those of us that have made so many missteps, so many mistakes, so many self-betrayals. How do we move from self-betrayal to inner congruence, inner understanding, inner grace, inner joy, a self-love that's unconditional? You have to wake up where you are, as dark and as evil and as right and as wrong. All the thoughts, all the beliefs, all the attitudes, all the history, your entire structure, mentally and physically. It's time for you to dive into that and experience exactly what it is to be you, consciously. You have to decide to come in and take responsibility for your life, for your body, consciously, in order to responsibly, in order to be responsible, to be able to respond appropriately with wisdom and grace. That's what you're looking for. The world is, the way that it is. And it's not normal for it to be inspired. It's not normal for it to be amazed. It's not normal for the world to feel at peace and loved. But once you sit in the midst of your pains and traumas long enough, and continuing to be conscious of exactly what they are, they begin to dissipate like steam in the air. And from moment to moment, you're more and more free, more and more here, more able, and more free. The more you accept the actuality of your existence here, both the history and the present, only then can you change the future into a new paradigm shift, a quantum leap in the effectiveness of you being here as a free consciousness. Find a way to say it, to help you decide to open the door to your inner experience of yourself, where you find the kingdom of heaven within you. If you're Christian or otherwise religious, and if you're not, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to believe in any one particular way in order to find yourself free here. It's only necessary to know your chains and your limitations intimately until everything about them is clear to you. Because you're there in the midst of it, maintaining your awareness, maintaining your sense of self within whatever it is that you ever ran away from, whatever's dark, whatever's unconscious, whatever makes you unable and creates your limitations and diminishes your experience of yourself as something, that's a wonder to be. And that's what we're looking for here. How do we change our lives? How do we turn around from the experience of what it is to be us, which is far, far from free, into something that humanity has rarely seen before, and that is, a Buddha consciousness. One where nothing is hidden from us and we don't hide from anything. Everything is as it is. And we celebrate it exactly that way. We love being here, and no matter what our circumstances are, we're grateful to be here in the midst of our pains and traumas. And we're going to love them until we're congruent within our experience of ourself. We're going to love our sorrows. We're going to love our pains. We're going to love our childhood. We're going to love our family. But I've got a long way to go to being unconditionally loving to my family. It's a sad thing to admit to, but if it's true, you have to admit that. You have to feel that. You have to become conscious in the insanity of your own behavior, your own actions, your circumstances of life that you've created by your actions and by your words and by your inactions, by your thoughts, by your unconscious habits. If you want to change all that, then you have to have a starting point. Now for me, the starting point is right here, right now. I'm embarrassed to film this because of who I am right here and right now. I want to lose 40 pounds before somebody sees me on camera, but you know what? That hasn't happened. And so, I'm starting now. Here I am. I'm me, and I'm exactly this. There's nothing that I'm hiding from myself. And as I move into my experience of myself, no longer hiding the truth, then the greater truth begins to come in. Because the lesser truths, the contextual truths, the truths that are only true from 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 points of view out of billions. If it's only true from a particular point of view, it's not true at all. Because if there's billions of points of view, and they're all in disagreement with yours can't be right. So you have to allow yourself to be wrong, because it's your wrongness, not anybody else's, that puts you in the circumstances that you're at. You could have chosen to not say anything you ever said, to not take a step in any direction that you ever took. But you didn't know where and when and how to say no. You didn't know how to come to terms with what you really want. You didn't know how to express your fear and terror of, what do I do with my life? And who do I do it with? And how do I survive and prosper in those relationships that I have? it's a terrible thing to come to terms with a life that's in disarray. Mine is nearly completely, even though, some people think I'm doing great. I'm really not. It's observable just physically. I'm not great physically. I'm in pain. I'm overweight. I spend hardly any of my time truly doing the things that make me feel good, that bring me happiness and joy. And so what does that say about me? That says that I'm operating at a level of consciousness that is so disabled that I don't even know how to choose well for myself. I don't know the difference between right and wrong. I don't know the difference between opportunity and opposition. So as you admit the things that are true about yourself to yourself, all of a sudden you begin to become free, because you're hiding the awful truth about yourself to yourself. That you're terrified, that you're incompetent, that you're unconscious, that you're a victim, or worse, a victimizer. Don't know if that's worse or not, but let's just say that neither one of them is an appropriate choice for any being that has a possibility to operate at a higher level of consciousness. And so that's the question. Is there an opportunity for us to grow? And maybe I don't like expressing it that way. It's not about that we have to grow. It's that we have to realize. We have to make real within our experiences of ourselves, of our experience of who we are. We have to wake up there. We have to become more present. We have to become more real from a spiritual point of view. From an area of consciousness, we have to become tremendously more conscious than we have been. And as we make that choice and have that experience in our bodies, it's not fun facing the darkness of ourselves. But it sure is healing. Going through the trauma of your self-judgment, through the experience of exactly who you've been afraid that you are. Admitting that you are what you are, how you are, where you are, who you are. That's the first step on the stairway to heaven, or the freedom of consciousness, or embracing the truth that will set you free. The truth that sets you free is the truth about you. And the second level of truth is that whatever is temporarily true about you doesn't have to be permanently true about you. Change is possible. Everybody knows that. The question is, we're all confused about how to embrace that change so that it actually happens to us, what we want. And everybody gives us advice, but, they're not really any better at it than we are they? Maybe they all are. Maybe I'm the last lost one. I hope I am. Because that means when I wake up, there's nothing else that has to be done. Because everyone else has just been waiting for me. I'm okay with that reality. Are you? Are we willing to give up our pretenses about the truth of others as they propose it to us, I know that Sandra is believing sincerely that she is exactly who she's pretending to be. She forgot that her identity is a pretense and that the truth of her is something else. And so she's trying to change a role. She's trying to change a part in the play that has already been written. The play has to end. The movie has to be over. The song has to come to a conclusion. And then you can reflect on your experience of yourself long enough for you to notice that the more that you do that, the more completely you do that, the freer you become, the more responsible you become, the more real, the more realized, the more actualized. You know, it might happen for me sometime, I don't know, but you know, it's what I'm looking at, it's what I'm hoping for. It's what I'm hoping for us all. And if we can each hold that hope for ourselves, that being completely congruent within our experience of ourselves, and doing that at a level of consciousness where that's not oppositional to anybody else's wishes and desires. Somehow, it's not just a personal congruency, it's a group congruency. It's a group awakening. You know, it's an ascendance. But it has to first be about you. Because if you don't wake up, you don't know if the party's already going on or not. You might be the first to know, or you might be the last to know. But in a state of not knowing, you're not going to find out until you make the choice, take the medicine of the truth of your life. Take that pill and go down that rabbit hole until you realize that the truth of you can't be contained there. It can't be contained here either. The truth of you is beyond everything that you ever imagined. The truth of you is truly free. And when you get enough of the infinite truth of yourself within your experience in your body, then you are naturally congruent. You're real, you're relevant, and you're a benefit to the rest of us. So where do we go from there? You know? We're saying, here it is, it's possible. I haven't done it. You have to take my word for it. And why would you take the word for somebody who admits that they're living a tortured life? Because I'm admitting it. And I'm accepting it. And I'm realizing the truth of myself in the midst of my suffering. In the midst of my terror of being me here. The terror of taking responsibility for my life. But it's what I have to do. And it's what I am doing. And it's for me, this part is an awful experience. Awakening in the midst of, a completely tense existence. My body never relaxes. Even though it looks like I do, I'm as tense as a bar of steel, it seems. And as we describe that, something else opens up and relaxes and releases. And then it's, again, even easier for us to be here now. And that's as simple as it is. We take our medicine. We experience the lie of who we are. The realization that it's a complete pretense, a fabrication, one that we collaborated on other people with, our ancestors, our direct family, our friends, our church, our community, our society, our religion, our country, and our collective consciousness of humanity. It is what it is. Everybody knows it. And everybody knows their role and their place. But it seems like nobody knows that once they accept their place and experience their role, then their part in the universal beauty of free expression grows and becomes more and more and more. Until we begin to experience the other person who's doing that, who's loving himself to the death of every belief and thought, every unconscious habit, melting away in an experience of a loving grace within your experience of yourself. Now, if both are true, if the trauma view is temporally true, and exactly what you deserve based upon what you did, even if you didn't do anything and you're falsely accused, you still took on the consciousness, the identity, the personality, the beingness, the victimhood of somebody who would be falsely accused and unjustly punished. It's always, always, always our fault. Because if you weren't being who you were being, you wouldn't have the relationships, the quality of relationships, and the and the fact that your relationships are uncomfortable. They're only that way because of who you're choosing to express yourself as. You're not experiencing the truth of you that leads to your experience of freedom. And you should. Or at least I should. So why are we doing this? We're doing this because what we were doing before wasn't good enough. We can't live with the trajectory that our life is going on. I have to be wiser. I have to be more conscious. I have to be happier. I have to be fitter. I have to be nicer. I have to be more loving and more beneficial to my family, to my friends, to my business relationships, and to society. We have to respond appropriately to bring out the best, not just of ourselves, but of the others. We have to take every point of view into account before we act and say, how do we act? How do we express ourselves? How do we move here so that the other person is not offended, so that the other person isn't made wrong? Well, we have to look them in the eye and say, your ideas and beliefs and thoughts aren't important because all of that is wrong. Every point of view is. The only thing that's right is you looking me in the eye and I looking into your eyes. And not sharing a point of view that's a prejudgment, but simply opening and taking the other person in. What is it about them? What's it like to be them? What do they know? What do they feel? What do they see? What are the possibilities for them? What is their most beautiful pathway of self-expression? And you have to be intimate. You have to embrace them with appreciation, with approval, with a willingness to see them from the bad choice they just made into the inspiration of a beautiful choice that they make now. The choice to be responsible for yourself and to be responsible for others and to take a holistic view of life and say, until I can open up my consciousness enough to understand all of this, I'm not going to judge the other person as being wrong. Because they might be right. There's certainly enough evidence that I'm wrong. So when you begin to take in what it is to be someone else, you begin to understand that there's a good reason for them being everything they are in this moment. And that it actually makes sense. And so you can tell them, you know what, it's okay. There was a darn good reason why your life was the way that it is, and why you're who you are right here and now. And with this realization, a person can begin to stop judging themselves because they met somebody who doesn't judge them, who sees them as having lived a life where they're playing a role and they're acting out a part. And you played that role perfectly, and you acted out that part magnificently. You couldn't have been you any better than you were. And nobody could have been a better you than you. We're each uniquely what we are. Where we come together as one is when we're all awakened. When we're all in a state of knowing that the other has always done the best that they possibly could, according to the consciousness where they were. And so the punishment for sin, the punishment for misdeeds, the punishment for going off track, and the punishment for being incongruent within yourself is that you get to sit in that until you wake up and realize the freedom within your experience of yourself again. All you have to do is be responsible. All you have to do is take 100% responsibility that your life is your creation and nobody else's. Then it can change. Until then, somebody else has the controls as far as your beingness is concerned. Until you take the control by taking the responsibility. The responsibility that's actually 100% yours. You're not doing anyone else a favor by saying that you're responsible for their bad behavior towards you, because you absolutely are. Why did you ever have the first interaction with somebody who had criminal intentions towards you? You knew what they were when you met them. You had a second meeting, didn't you? So whose fault was that? For you not saying no. For you not being true to yourself. Who supports you? Who celebrates you? Who loves you? Who's waiting for your awakening? Who's waiting for your realization? Who's waiting to feel what a radiant you would feel like to them? Who's open to the transcendent you? The Buddha you? And shouldn't they have more of your attention? When you realize that somebody has no good intentions for you at all, shouldn't you dial that down? Take less of that input and more of the input of those who know that a transcendent experience is knocking at your door? Well, if it's knocking and you want to be free, open the door. Open your heart. Feel what it is to be you, the human you, the suffering you. And admit that you caused it. I caused mine, 100%. 100%. Every bad experience I ever had, I was the cause of. Because I was who I was, and I was where I was, and I did what I did, and I didn't do what I didn't do. That created my reality, that created my experience. And I didn't like it, and so I've complained about it my whole life. As if somebody was responsible besides me. And because of that, I've been trapped. I'm in a body that is horrible to feel what it's like to be me. And yet the only solution is for me to take my medicine and feel that, and know that, and experience what it is for me to live the life that I did. It works the same way for you. It works the same way for all of us. Don't give somebody else the power. The blame is yours, for you. The blame is mine, for me. And the truth of us won't be found in eternity, unless we find it within ourselves now. So, warts and all, sins and crimes against humanity, whatever it is, that makes it impossible for you to be congruent within your experience of yourself. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love the life that you are. You gotta love the opportunity that you have to turn this life around. Turn it around, man. Dive into your life. Dive into your life. Feel what it is to be you. And love the you that you are. Warts and all. Color doesn't matter, of course. Race doesn't matter. Sex doesn't matter. Religion doesn't matter. Philosophy doesn't matter. Nationality doesn't matter. Previous possibilities and limitations don't matter. The only thing that matters is you. Your experience of yourself, unfiltered, without resistance, without any reaction to it. The spirit of truth, the light of your being, begins to take residence within your embodied self. Things clear up for you. Your understanding's opened. And your personal freedom's restored. By knowing yourself, the darkest depths, but the magnificence also. That's why you're feeling incongruent, because both are true, the light and the dark, the good and the evil. And when you experience the merger within yourself of the divine and the damned, of the conscious and the unconsciousness, of grace and wisdom with stupidity and unconsciousness and awkwardness. When those two seemingly incompatible truths exist at the same time, and you're conscious as both, then the marriage, the divine marriage, has occurred. And the transformation of your traumas has begun. Your pathway to freedom is in front of you now. So take that first step and walk that yellow brick road. Know what it is for the truth and freedom, grace and love, to be walking that road of freedom as you. You got another question?
No, you can imagine all the peace I could.
You like that little talk?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Thanks.
It's like you guys everything that I'm thinking.
Well, I've been doing this a long time. I have to start sharing that, in order for me to experience my own freedom. I have to be willing to share yours. And that's why I'm filming this. As terrifying as this is for me, as much as this isn't, the me that the world knows. I have to be both. I have to be the me that's possible of transcending the limitations that I've created for myself. I have to be those limitations, and I have to be so conscious that my experience of those limitations begin to move with an unconditional love and understanding and forgiveness and awareness. And in that, you're set free, because the truth of you is the transcendent. And when you're coming in to a human life where you've only been partially here and largely unconscious, then that's where you come in. You say, thank God I'm here. I got some work to do. This isn't an ideal situation. I'm incongruent. I'm old, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm misbehaved. Now what? Now that I know exactly who and what I am, and yet at the same time I know to a great degree what the possibility is for me. Then we begin to embrace that transformational process. We begin to trust, allowing our experience of ourselves to be acted upon, seemingly by someone or something else. And what the truth is doesn't matter. It only matters if the transcendence, the transformation, the movement from what is into a great freedom of what can be is actually happening. The cause doesn't need to be approved or analyzed or known or understood. Only the willing reception is necessary. Because you'll know everything soon enough when you wake up. So what do you need to know before you wake up? You can't possibly know. So stop setting that as a prerequisite. You can't know before you wake up what that process is. Because if you knew, you'd already be awake, and you already know that you're not. And I'm certainly not. But I'm willing to at least say what I said, and open to the degree that I opened. That seems to be beneficial in my case. And so that's why I'm sharing in this way.
Thank you.
Because it's working for me. And so if it works for you too, and you make this shift, and you embody that congruency, and you begin to find that love for your own life, that joy of being, the grace of expression that you can be here. Then if I get to experience you as that, how easy is it for me to be the truth of me when you're being the truth of you? When you're the truth of you, you move through life as a blessing to others, an example of the truth of them, who they are when they wake up, and who they are when they're free. Who the truth of them is, that they're unaware and unconscious of, the one that would free them if they opened up and experienced it, and merged their infinite potential with their temporal prison, and experienced them both and owned them at the same time in the same place. That's when you begin to wake up and begin to be free. And regardless of what happens tomorrow, you're being a freer being, a more conscious person who's going to serve you and others well, no matter what the circumstances are. So it's beginning to feel good to be me. Never feels good to be me. But I'm beginning to sense what that will be like. To be happy to me, what a blessing that would be. So horrible. It's so horrible to be me. I wouldn't make anybody be me and live my life. So tortured. So disabled. And so misunderstood. Most particularly misunderstood by myself. Well, I kind of like to make these about an hour, but we're a little short.
It was short. It was very deep and very with a substance.
Okay, so let's bring it home then.
Okay.
Feel all the space surrounding your body. All the space that your subtle bodies occupy. And just be there. Notice how things in your body are opening up, freeing up, relaxing just from owning the space around your own body. Being present and conscious there. It's a little easier to be present outside your body than it is. But if you have your body inside your presence, that your presence is somewhat larger, maybe a lot larger than your body. Then you can begin to truly feel what your body's actually like. It's completely inside of you. There's no running away from any part of it. You encompass it in every possible way. And as you encompass your body in every possible way, the issues begin to be resolved that are at odds with each other within your experience of you. Mental issues, physical issues, emotional issues. Let them all resolve on their own. Don't stop anything and don't start anything. Just let it happen. Let there be a resolution to everything. The perfect one, the fair one, the obvious one. Then tomorrow we can wake up and have it be different than today was. Have tomorrow be the tomorrow of the possibility of a better you.
You know, even in this situation of the country, I'm in peace. Even all the things that this president is doing and everything.
Yeah.
I'm in peace.
Stuff happens in the country, that's for sure. But you know, when there's no more incongruence within you, when everything begins to glow, that'll be a transformational signal to your entire network that it's time to take that next step themselves, to take that quantum leap in embracing their own infinite possibilities. So allow that light to shine more brightly within you. Allow it to be radiant. Allow it to be my experience of you. Allow my experience of you to be one of feeling your radiance without any filters, without any restrictions, without any pretenses, without any lies. Because when that's real for you, it'll be darn near impossible for me to not be in my truth when I'm with you. And that's how friends should be for each other. That's how we all should be for each other. That's how we should be for ourselves. We should be our own best friend. We should clean that temple of our own body and soul by taking residence divinely within the hell of our lives. Now that's a metaphor. That's a metaphor, whether you're religious or not. You don't have to buy into any philosophy. Use metaphors for transformation as a signal that you can transform regardless of the story. That you can change, that you can grow, that you can know for yourself what it is to know something magnificently. To know it so beautifully that it actually sets you free. So know yourself, and you'll know your truth. And that truth will set you free and bring a wholeness and a completion where there's no longer any possibility of incongruence within the experience of what it is to be you. So, I'd say, you know what? God bless me, so that is my experience. And if there's not a God, then let's just say, whatever that infinite potential is that's real for us all, I'm choosing to have that experience for me. I'm going to let that be the cause of my life. And embrace the identity of me until I am the knowingness of what it is to know what Buddha knew, to know myself as everything and nothing, and to have that spark of radiance explode within the heart of myself so that I'm not wanting anything or lacking anything or needing anything. Just delighted to be here and free in myself. May you experience that same thing yourself. I'd say we're good here.